Hi, today I'm here to talk to you about how students can study for tests more effectively. I believe this is one of the largest problems a student faces nowadays, and there is a solution for this. Over the course of Cu1010, we all learned something about the learning cycle, which includes previewing, attending class, reviewing after class, and then studying and then assessing yourself. By doing this cycle, you will learn much more effectively than ever before, and by using this method of studying, I learned that my grades increased very efficiently. By following the learning cycle, I began previewing for classes, and I found this to be one of the biggest things when it came to learning for tests. I began skimming over the chapters and reading over bold text, vocabulary, anything that seemed important. That way, when I went to class, which is the second part in the learning cycle, I could bring any questions, any problems I had when reading the text, and it made it much easier for me to learn, and it made it much easier for me to focus in class and participate. It made everything much easier. After attending class, it was time that I head to the library to review. And by reviewing, I would start to read the notes that I took, the important vocabulary, and go over the questions that I asked when I was previewing class, and review the questions that I didn't know heading into class. By reviewing after class, I was able to, in depth, learn more of the material and learn more information that I had known before. Another important key in the learning cycle is that you begin to study at least 3 days before, although I would recommend that you start 5 days before. Before, some students would start 2 or even 1 day before their test, and they would understand and learn when they're taking the test how difficult it is for the brain to process all this information in such a small amount of time. And by studying 3 to 5 days before, you learn and process material much easier, and it makes it much easier to memorize things, and it obviously shows with better test grades. After studying for 3 to 5 days, it is time that you assess yourself when you feel like you are ready. You can assess yourself by looking through your textbook and finding questions, looking for things that your teacher has provided you, such as study guides and practice tests. By assessing your learning, you can see what you truly know and what you don't, and what you need to review. It is very important that you go and do this 1 to 2 days before your test instead of at least the night before or even the day of your test. Therefore, you can understand what you know and what you don't know. It is also important that students know how long and how intense their study sessions should be. I believe there are 2 ways that a student can go about doing this. You can either have a short and very intense learning session and have multiple throughout the day, or you can have several slightly less intense but much longer study sessions. Both of these are very effective ways, and I believe they are the biggest and most important things that students understand when it comes to studying for tests. During these study sessions, you should spend the first couple of minutes setting a goal and what you want to accomplish during your study session. And then next, once you have set that goal, it is important that you at least spend an hour or so studying and focusing very intensely. And then once you have done that, give yourself a reward. Go get food, maybe get some candy and relax. And then after you do that, spend about 5 to 10 minutes reviewing what you learned and make sure that you know it in depth and make sure you have not missed any material, and you can move on to the next chapter. Next, when studying, it is important to recognize how big of a difference going from high school to college is. In high school, it was more of a memorization, and if you studied and learned the vocabulary, that you would be fine on the test because it would be simple, questions such as, what is the definition of this? But then once you get to college, you have to be able to analyze, understand, evaluate, and create these questions. Once you get to college and have your first test, you kind of realize how big of a difference it is, because you have to know what the definition is and be able to evaluate it on a much deeper level in order to be able to answer the question. And by doing that, you have to understand that when you are studying, that you need to ask deeper questions, and within every vocabulary term, learn it to extreme basis. While there are many effective techniques when it comes to studying, I believe the learning cycle is most certainly the most effective way. By following the learning cycle, you will learn much more ahead of time and much more deeper. It is important that college students understand how important it is to get good grades and get good test grades, considering it is, in most classes, 20 to 30% of their grade. But by following this video and by following the learning cycle, I believe any student has a good chance of performing well on their tests.